master chef. Live life with no.
All right, so let's talk about Impact Wrestling from April the 15th, 2021. We start the show. Well, the show is mostly about it's build up of two things. One, the press conference between Kenny Omega and Rich Swann, and Jazz's retirement. Both of those things I think were handled pretty well. The third thing that was kind of important on this show was the pick your poison stipulation with Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. I actually love the pick your poison concept. It is when one opponent, like you're going to wrestle a guy at a pay-per-view, but before then you have to pick his opponent, he has to pick yours. I love that concept, and they did that here. So that was good, even though, matches questionable. But let's get into the show. So the first match on the show was TJP versus Josh Alexander. And this match was actually very good. I have been very critical of TJP. Filipino Gumbo. Not Gumbo, Gumby. He just has absolutely no personality to speak of. TJP sucks. But his personality sucks because he's devoid of a personality. But as a wrestler, though, he's pretty good. I can see why people were so excited about him when he does like Japan and stuff like that, because he's pretty good. And Josh Alexander is pretty good too. There's a lot of good grappling, a lot of counter holds and stuff like that in here too. It was good stuff. And the finish came with a double wrist lock, double underhook pile driver. So it was pretty sweet from Josh Alexander, and he won. Which I was surprised about. So it was a good surprising finish. It was a good match. Probably one of the better matches I've seen on Impact lately. This was pretty damn good. So then we got a Taylor Wilde vignette, basically announcing that she will be returning. The second match was Crazy Steve versus Carl Anderson, and for some reason Carl Anderson needed the referee to be distracted and Luke Gallows to distract Crazy Steve in order to beat him. Why the Good Brothers are feuding with goddamn Decay, I have no idea. Look, I like Decay. All right, I like the entire concept. I love the music and everything, but the company is pretty serious about not taking them seriously at all. Taurus is one of my dudes. Big fan of his from AAA. Rosemary, of course, has been around forever, but unless you're not gonna do anything with them except for job them out, I just don't have any interest. But Carl Anderson won the match with a spine buster, which is strange because it's not his finisher, but whatever. So we get Swingers Palace. So I was so excited about this, right? Ace Austin comes into Swingers Palace, and he asks Johnny Bravo, what's the odds on him winning the triple threat match at Rebellion? So Johnny Bravo has to break the news to him. He's like, look, it's not very good. And Johnny Bravo was like, Austin, 316, daddy. And he says he told Madman Fulton no smoking, Big Daddy, while he was smoking a cigar. He had a cigar and told him no smoking. That was great. Then so Alicia Edwards made fun of Ace Austin, who was upset at these odds, the 316 odds. I don't even know how odds work. I don't know how betting works. I've never bet in my life. I played dice before, but I've never bet. But he's he's upset. So Alicia Edwards like, oh, making fun of him and stuff, and he was like, I like to try my eyes with you. She was like, ugh, you're so gross. So then TJP comes in, and he wants to know what his eyes are. And TJP finds out that he's the odds-on favorite. The eyes are on him. Everybody's looking towards TJP winning this match, and he's like, oh, okay, cool. And then Josh Alexander comes in. He's like, you guys are schooling, He comes in you guys are goofing off yet again. And they're like, whatever. And then he was like, look, I don't need to know what my odds are because my friend knows. And then in comes Petey Williams to cut the Scott Steiner promo. The Steiner math promo. He's wearing the Scott Steiner head, chainmail head thing. And of course he cuts the Steiner math promo. And and everybody, all the women were like standing there with their mouth agape as he goes on about 22 2/3% and everything. Everybody else is just looking like, what in the hell? Anyway, it was over. And Josh Alexander said, look, the odds are on my side. And that was it. Swinger was like, I'm going to be the $1 million swing man, daddy. Everybody's got a price. Okay, so it was funny. The Steiner Math promo has got to be the best promo in Impact Wrestling history. It's got to be the single greatest promo in the history of that entire company. Because, look, I understand, like, the Jay Lethal, Ric Flair promo was awesome. Where they was wooing at each other, that was great. But Steiner, that shit was completely improv. Nobody knows what the fuck he was talking about or where he was even going with that. It just went on and on and on. And you could just tell that he was digging this hole deeper and deeper. And there's no way he could have come up with that on his own. He absolutely had to have come up with that on the fly. That couldn't have been scripted. Like the woo off at least was somewhat choreographed, where they would, Jay Lethal would break out his Ric Flair, his Ric Flair impersonation, which is almost as good as his Randy Savage. His Randy Savage was really good, and but that was great too. That was fantastic. But the Steiner Math one has got to be the best Impact Wrestling promo of all time. It's got to be. All right, so the next thing we get is Eddie Edwards and Willie Mack. They're in the ring talking about they've been friends for a long time, but they're pissed off that Violent by Design attacked Tommy Dreamer. And so they said, we're not asking for a rematch. We don't want a rematch. We just want to beat you guys up. So I want you guys to come out here, and we're going to kick your ass. So Violent by Design comes out, and Eric Young is like, look, I enjoyed seeing what happened to Tommy Dreamer. I don't mind what happened to Tommy Dreamer. I condone what happened to Tommy Dreamer, but we didn't attack Tommy Dreamer, and we're not liars. And then Eddie Edwards was like, okay, whatever. Get in this ring and we'll fight. So Violence by Design circles the ring, because it's 4 of them and it's only Willie Mack and Eddie Edwards. And then James Storm and Chris Sabin runs to the ring, and it's one big fight. And they fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. Fight. And then Violent by Design flee because they're the heels. James Storm and Chris Sabin. Then James Storm talked and basically says that they're a pack of wolves, but they're challenging them to a match at Rebellion. They didn't say what kind of match, but they want to have a 4-on-4 war at Rebellion. Again, I don't know if that's going to work because Eric Young was hurt. So I don't know if this is all the same set of tapings, or, is he working hurt? Because they said that he was going to be out for like 9 weeks or something like that. So I don't know how this is working, but apparently he's going to still be there. But the important thing that come out of this promo is that Violent by Design said that they did not attack Tommy Dreamer, and they're not lying about that. So then we get Deonna Purrazzo. She is with Susan, who is marching to Scott D'Amore for reasons unknown. And Deonna stops her and asks her if she was feeling okay, because she turned into Su Yung before. So they're like, okay. Or she got murdered by Su Yung. I'm sorry. She got choked out. And Su Yung took her place at the pay-per-view. So she's asking Susan if she was okay. And she's like, okay, I'm fine. I'm like, why would I be anything else? So then Scott D'Amore comes up there and tells Deonna Purrazzo, don't you dare get involved with Jazz's retirement thing. And Deonna Purrazzo like, look, I wasn't interested in getting involved with that anyway. And that was pretty much it. But that was another little seed that they planted for a storyline that would come later. So that's 2 in a row that they were basically planting in the first half of the show to pay off in the second half. So then we had this talk show segment called All About Me from Tennille Dashwood, where it's basically the same set as Locker Room Talk that Madison Rain did. It's almost the exact same set, actually. And the show is very weird, where Tennille is the guest, but she's also the host at the same time. See, like it's her show. So technically she's the host, but other people are the hosts. Basically their job is to come in and ask her questions, right? So the first host, not guest, but host, was Gia Miller. So Gia Miller is about to ask her some type of question. I don't remember what it was, and it doesn't matter. But the important thing is that she decided to answer the question that she wanted to answer, which is, what makes you think you can win the Knockouts championship? And it's a question that completely was made up, not the question Gia Miller was going to ask her. So she basically said that she's good at everything and that she started the Impact Women's Revolution. So it's obvious that she is ready to be the Knockouts champion. She's done everything. She's won titles everywhere. She should be the Knockouts Women's Champion, and she's beaten Deonna Purrazzo in places other than Impact. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal for her to beat Deonna Purrazzo in Impact. And she never fails. And, when she wanted to do video vlogs, she did it. And when she wanted to do travel blogs, she did it. And she's good at social media. She's just good at everything. And so she's also very good at wrestling. And so she's going to beat Deonna Purrazzo. And then, after she answered the question, they kicked Gia out. And that was pretty much it. This was cringe. Look, Tennille is fine as far as personality is concerned. She pulls off the influencer thing. And I actually looked, I believe I looked at one point, and she does have like a lot of followers and stuff. But a lot of that is booty butt cheeks, when she just, a lot of those women have like big followings on Twitter and stuff because they take butt cheek pictures all the time. So it's like if you standing under a rainfall with your nipples posting out between your bikini, of course you're going to have a lot of followers. It's not that hard. It doesn't make you smart or anything. It's like there's a lot of thirst traps on this goddamn site. It's like, of course, people following you. There's women's wrestlers who nobody knows that has 100,000, 200,000 followers. Nobody even know whose broad is. But she take booty pics, and that's all that matters. So I really don't so while she's good at working the gimmick and playing the cocky and very arrogant character, she's actually okay with that. For women, I don't buy it because it's so easy for them to get simps that it's like, why wouldn't she? The only reason she wouldn't have 200,000 followers if she didn't post butt pics, which is, kind of how it is. All right, so we get Jazz's retirement segment. So Jazz retirement segment, Jazz basically says she thought she had one more run in her, and that's why she came back to wrestle for the tag team title and came back to wrestle for the Impact title, but now she sees that Deonna is the present and the future of women's wrestling, and she thanked Jordynne Grace, who was there with her at her side, for giving her the opportunity and asking her to be her partner, and says, like, you have a very bright future. That's what she said to Jordynne Grace. I thought, if we being honest, I thought Jordynne Grace was going to turn on her, or she was going to turn on Jordynne Grace. That's what I thought. Because when you say that Deonna Purrazzo was the present and future of women's wrestling, and one of her competitors is right here, and that's your friend, right? You're like, well, you have a bright future, but she's like amazing. That sounds like something where Jordynne Grace should have threw a clothesline or a punch or something, to beat her ass. But they played it straight, Instead of doing that, what they had is Fire and Flavor come out. They have been missing for a while now. But Fire and Flavor come out, and they basically start roasting Jazz about how, she's old, and what Tasha Steele called her an oldie. Kiera said, you being gone, it's about time, thank God. And that, she needs to be off in a retirement home. And so Jordynne Grace was like, whatever you got to say it in the ring or get the hell out of here. So they was like, nope, we ain't doing that. We gonna, obviously they're cowardly heels. They're like, no, thank you. We're taking off. So then a referee came out of nowhere and says, Scott says you guys have to wrestle them. And they were like, what? And he was like, yeah. And so Jordynne and Jazz came out of the ring and grabbed them. They went in there, beat them up, and pinned them. So they beat Fire and Flavor in like record time, like 2 or 3 minutes. Of course, they were not ready to wrestle, so that was their excuse. And then Jazz formally announced her retirement after she beat Fire and Flavor. She didn't win the tag team titles, though, which bleeds into the next segment. Because Scott D'Amore is arguing with Fire and Flavor. They are complaining about the match. They said the match shouldn't happen because they weren't ready. And Scott D'Amore said he made the match because they shouldn't have been out there in the first place. Essentially, he warned everybody not to go out there and mess up this segment. And since they decided to go out there, he decided if you go out there, you're ready to wrestle. And he says, now Jazz and Jordan Grace are the #1 contenders for the tag team titles. And at first, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz was like, nope, we didn't want to do it. Nope, nope, nope. And then they were like, you know what? We beat them already. So sure, we'll fight them again. Sure. And, bring them on at Rebellion. We're going to beat them. We're going to beat them again. We beat them 100 times if we have to. So then Jordan Grace and Jazz come in. And, they had overheard what Scott D'Amore said. And Jazz thanked Scott D'Amore for the opportunity, but said she wants to be a woman of her word. And as she formally retired, like she said she was going to, when she lost to Deonna Purrazzo. But that doesn't mean that Jordan Grace shouldn't get a title shot. But she also asked that she pick her own replacement. So that's very interesting now. She wants to be able to pick her own replacement. I think Scott D'Amore probably let her do it. Who will she pick? Probably Su Yung. If I was to guess, it would probably be like Su Yung or somebody like that. That would, completely wreck Fire and Flavor, make them look silly on the biggest pay-per-view they can ever have. But, it ought to be nice. It ought to be nice. All right, so he did the Pick Your Poison segment. Matt Cardona got to pick Brian Myers' opponent first, and he picked Jake something. I was like, okay, that's a solid pick as a Pick Your Poison opponent. Unfortunately, Brian Myers beat him in like 2 minutes. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, seriously, get out of here. This dude might have something. I hate that his name is Jake something, because it makes it sound like it's creating, this bullshit pun. No pun intended. But this guy might have something to him. The guy's big. He looks country strong. Solid dude. For him to be like doing random, very fast jobs to like Brian Myers is fucking disgusting. I mean, come on, man. Develop the kid. I don't know how old he is, but develop the guys. Let's see what he got as a solo act. Might need to turn him heel or something, and let's just see what he can do. Having him lose in 3 minutes to fucking Brian Myers for fuck's sake. Brian Myers is what, almost 40? Come on, dog. Anyway, Brian Myers, immediately after his match, picked Matt Cardona's opponent, who is Sami Callihan. So the Warthog attacked Matt Cardona from behind, pretty much dominated this match and just beat him up. Pretty much. He never really got out of the box, but this match was longer than the previous one. And Sami Callihan won the match with a package pile driver. And during the match, Sami Callihan ended up losing a fingernail, which he kept showing the camera that he lost his fingernail, and he ripped it off at the end, and he wiped the blood on his face. That's why I call him the Warthog. He's fucking filthy fucking idiot. All right, he's a weirdo. He's a filthy fucking idiot. A true Warthog. He eats truffles. Asshole. Anyway, after he dispatched Matt Cardona, Sami Callihan cut a promo. And I actually loved this. He called out Trey Miguel. So then Trey Miguel comes out there and he says that, Trey is upset. Of course, he's always so mad. He's like a human volcano. He's just always ready to just launch into a rage. And he tells Trey, look, I was actually proud of you for coming out there at Hardcore Justice and taking Tommy Dreamer's spot and doing this awesome thing. And Trey Miguel was like, look, it's just called doing the right thing. You wouldn't know nothing about that. And he's like, oh, well, maybe. But, didn't it feel good to let out all that rage and all that frustration? Didn't it feel good to be able to, to do that? And, we could together, we could work out all of our rage and frustration and, the epitome of passion and all this jazz. We can work all of this out all the time. And Jerry was like, nope, not going to do it. And so he says, like, you should be thanking me, Trey. You should be thanking me. You weren't even supposed to be on that show. And Trey was kind of like, yeah, I wasn't booked to be on Hardcore Justice. You're right. And he was like, I attacked Tommy Dreamer so that you can get that spot. You should be thanking me. So I'm going to ask you one last time. to side with me. And he put his hands out and Trey just decked him. Yes, blasting him for attacking Tommy Dreamer. So then Sami Callihan hit him in the nuts. He hit him in the nuts, and he beat him with beat him with chairs and beat his ass. Cause he's like, hey, look at what I did for you. I attacked Tommy Dreamer, took him out of the match so that you can get that spot, and this is how you repay me? You worthless cretin. I love this. This was excellent. Sure, it was predictable in some ways that once, he said you weren't supposed to be on that show, that he was kind of going to admit that he jumped Tommy Dreamer from behind. But he didn't care about, if anybody knew whether he attacked Tommy Dreamer or not. He wanted credit for what he did. He wanted the good boy points that come with that. And Trey is being a classic good guy. It's like, no, we can't stand for this. We're gonna take you down for what you did. And that ends up biting him on the ass because now he's got to wrestle the Warthog in a last man standing match. So that ought to be interesting. That ought to be fun. So then we get a FinJuice promo where basically they talk about how they are enjoying the visual of the Good Brothers struggling, but they've been they know that the Good Brothers is tough and that they're tough too. And they talk about how the FinJuice has done everything the Good Brothers have done and are currently the tag team champions. And so they're going to see them at Rebellion, where they're going to, of course, retain the tag team titles. I just kept thinking to myself, like, I forgot that Impact's tag team titles were even in existence. I didn't even remember who the tag team champions were. Why in the world would you take away your tag team titles for a month? Why would you take them away for a month? It's ridiculous, man. Like, that was the silliest thing in the world to do. And then to give them to talentless hacks like FinJuice is ridiculous. So let's talk about this press conference. There was, basically like an MMA or a boxing press conference where there's like this long table. And then the representatives of Impact on one side, representative of AEW was on the other side. It was Tony Khan and Jerry Lynn for AEW, Rich Swann and Scott D'Amore for Impact. Kenny Omega was supposed to be there to represent AEW, but he decided to show up fashionably late. Anyway, this was a cringe segment because they actually did bring in like 2 or 3 wrestling journalists to ask questions. Now, I think that they had one video message, and I think there was one sent a note, like an email or something like that. Mike Johnson from PW Insider. And Mike Johnson's question was actually made it seem like, yeah, there's some realism to it, if we put it like that. It gave like some historic background, like the Lou Thesz Bruno Sammartino match didn't happen. It never really got at a talking stage because there was no guarantees that either champion was going to maybe be able to make the dates of the other champion's schedule. So what makes anybody think that whoever becomes the unified world champion, is going to be able to make those dates? And then what do you think about people who say that there's not going to be an appropriate winner to this match, and it's going to end in some type of non-finish? So I think that it was an actually interesting question. So then Tony Khan answers the question by saying that, he fully believes that if, Kenny Omega was to win the title, and he expects Kenny Omega to win, that he's going to make Impact's dates. He's going to be at the pay-per-views. He's going to be on the show. And that he's guaranteeing it. And Scott D'Amore pretty much said the same thing, that, we're putting the fans first. We're putting the wrestlers first. We're being wrestler-friendly, fan-friendly, blah, blah, blah. And then Tony Khan says, like, as far as, 9 finishes, AEW has never had a match end in a 9-finish, So we can guarantee there will be a winner to this match. Impact didn't say anything about that. And then, of course, Kenny Omega came in fashionably late with Don Callis. And he took to the podium to talk after, which is strange that they were talking about champions making commitments, and Kenny Omega showed up to this show late, right? So that should tell you right there that, AEW is full of shit, where the guy asked about the champion making the dates, and their champion didn't even make it to the press conference on time. and then Tony Khan is talking big and bad about Omega doing all of these things because, he's been controlling Omega's contracts or whatever, but he couldn't even get the guy to show up on time. In the event, Don Callis cut a promo, basically reiterating what he said before about how he looked out for Rich Swann and all that kind of stuff. And then Kenny Omega took to the podium. And the long and the short of Kenny Omega's promo is that Rich Swann doesn't deserve to be there. That he's not used to this kind of responsibility. The responsibility of having an entire company on his shoulders. He's not used to that. And that, he understands why he would be nervous, why he would be scared, but he says, like, look, I'm been sent here to make a difference in the wrestling business. You're here because you love wrestling. And he said it so derisively, like that was just a small thing. And he said, and ultimately he ran him down a little bit more, and then he offered him a handshake. Rich Swann was kind of like going to shake his hand because he's been a real rube. He's going to shake his hand, and he got slapped. And then, of course, they got into a fight, and Rich Swann, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to kick your ass. And it was nice. I think they should have done that on the Go Home show. This whole thing was okay. It was cool. I think they should have done it on the Go Home show, which I believe is next week, or then in 2 weeks. Is this like them telling us that Kenny Omega won't be there for the next 2 weeks? That ought to be weird. But ultimately, this was not bad. Okay, this was not a bad segment. It was kind of cringe with the whole wrestling journalist thing, but it was trying to go for realism. That's what a press conference is. You take questions from the media, so that's what they did. Having Kenny Omega bitch slap a Rich Swann, it's kind of par for the course when it comes to Impact. They're bending over backwards to accommodate AEW. But this was solid. There was parts of it that were cringe, but it was solid. So as the show goes off the air, there's one final announcement for Rebellion, and that is that Mauro Ranallo, the former voice of NXT, the voice of Showtime Boxing and MMA and all that type of stuff, will be calling the main event of Impact Wrestling. So, Mamma Mia is on his way back. Mauro will call the main event Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann at Rebellion. And this is honestly a good idea. It is good. See, here's the thing about Mauro Ranallo. He's very polarizing as far as his performance goes as an announcer. But his energy and his passion is unmatched. That's one thing that NXT has really missed. They have really missed the unique voice of Mauro Ranallo. Because he's so powerful. He's so energetic. He's either going to drive you nuts or he's going to pump you up. Now, there of course have been, again, mixed reactions because Mauro gets mixed reactions all the time. Some people they don't like him. I personally think that he's actually not bad. I think that he's, again, a unique voice. He doesn't sound like everybody else. He doesn't come across like everybody else. He doesn't enunciate like everybody else. He's actually knowledgeable about wrestling and the product and holds and stuff like that. But he's also colorful. He's also has a personality of his own. And I think that, it helps because right now, Matt Striker is good. I have no problem with Matt Striker. But D'Lo Brown he's barely there. Let's put it like that. D'Lo is so plain. He's like an empty suit. There's no personality in anything D'Lo says. Matt Striker is trying to be white meat babyface, and is in some ways very boring. But at least he's not bad. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can be boring. He could be a boring commentator who just, tells the story and, is serviceable at his job and, gets over the guys that we're watching, puts them over, makes everything feel special and say some right things at the right time. But sometimes you need somebody who is a lot more colorful, somebody who does bring a wealth of knowledge to this scene. And that's a wonderful thing. So I'm not mad that you got Mauro Ranallo. I'm glad. It ought to make the main event feel bigger. I think personally they probably should have got Jim Ross to do it. I think that it would probably be better if they asked Jim Ross to do it. Let Jim Ross call the big main event between Omega and Swann. I know he's probably not in a position right now where he can call that, and that's probably why they called Morrow, is because even though they got Jim Ross under contract, Jim Ross is pretty much checked out. The guy's in his 70s, I believe, or his late 60s. He's probably checked out of the wrestling business, and asking him to do more work is probably too much. But so the Morrow thing, I like it. I like that Morrow and Alo is going to be there. One last thing from Impact. Nevaeh is actually finishing up her contract at Impact. She's done. I know nobody cares about Nevaeh because, she was in Impact for like 2 years and did nothing. But what really blew my lid is that they had her go home match. Her last match was a losing effort to Havoc, and it was on before the Impact. It wasn't even on the show. So they taped the match on before the Impact, and that was her last match, and she did a job to her former tag team partner and left. So, well, them's the breaks, kid. But Nevaeh was on TV for 2 years, and I have no idea. I wouldn't be able to pick her out of a crowd. That's unfortunate, but out with the old, in with the new. Taylor Wilde's coming in, and there'll probably be somebody else coming in too. And then after seeing, there'll probably be some other people coming in too. Let's be honest. So let me know what you guys thought. What you guys think about Mauro Ranallo, the Impact episode of April the 15th. So hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications as well. Go into the description, send cash via the Cash App, or send cash via the Subscribe Star, depending on whatever one is more to your liking. You want to send money directly right now, or do you want to, put me essentially on the payroll to, give money every month? And you can follow me on Twitter. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Thank you for your time. Peace out.